Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional from the world of technology from Gurgaon, India, Mr. Anurag Awasthi. Anurag, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you. Anurag is the policy and strategy specialist for semiconductors and ESDM, which is electronic system design and manufacturing. So, Anurag, before we talk about the semiconductor business, tell me about your own journey and what got you interested in this area.
Oh, it's been serendipity or epiphany or whatever you call it. I spent around 27 years in uniform as a colonel in the army.
Okay.
Thereafter,
Which corps were you in?
I was from the Armored Corps.
Okay.
And moved into the Indian School of Business. Did my master's in policy from there, and then, as luck would have it, semiconductors happened to me. So for the last around 3 years, one has delved deep into the policy aspects of semiconductors, ESDM, not only with India, but with a lot of countries, as well as various trade bodies, various MOUs. So the journey has been fantastic.
Amazing. So let me start by asking you, for my viewers and listeners, and of course for myself, can you tell us about the current state of the semiconductor and the ESDM industry in India? And I know a lot of talk is going on about spending billions of dollars.
Let me, first give you a very historical perspective. Okay. A lot of people have this, instinct to say that, we've started late, India's missed the bus, all of that. We have to understand things from a very, very different paradigm. Firstly, our semiconductor tryst started as early as the early 60s, when Fairchild got in from the United States here, making transistors and all of that. But also, what is to be understood is that there were 3 wars in quick succession, 62, 65, 71.
Yeah.
So a lot of things went a little haywire because of that, as also the market dynamics at that time. And then, not to be missed that we were a rather socialist and a very closed economy at that time. So things didn't work the way they had to.
Yeah.
Either way, sometime in the early 80s, late 70s, this need was felt yet again. And a lot of people may not know that the semiconductor laboratory, which is in Mohali, up and running for the last 40 years, without a break, was established in 1983. Lo and behold, TSMC, the world's behemoth, was established in 1987. So you were much before all these things, got into play. But somewhere there were some issues in SCL, and there was a fire which cut it down in 1989. And then, of course, you opened the economy in 1991.
Yeah.
Now, in 1991, when you could get something for 2 rupees or, $2, and you had to, spend around $25 to $30 to make it, it did not make a business case.
Absolutely.
So you didn't pursue that with whatever you did, at that time. And then, of course, there are issues of the manufacturing industry and the service industry, in which service industry took primacy. I have argued in one of my articles on Forbes last month that when you're looking at, the manufacturing part also, the entire holistic space in India, is that, if you chronicle anything between the December of, 1989 to the March of 1998, that is around roughly 8 years. Well, we had 6 prime ministers in that 8 years. And you had governments which lasted in days. So when you have such kind of a political upheaval, how does the policy take root? And especially when you've just opened the economy. So, these things have to be understood very holistically, and not, a lot of people just give a small little, rhetoric and say, oh, we missed this customer. No, it doesn't work like that. There are too many other things. Now, having said that, today, the policies in the semiconductor space and in the critical electronic space of the government of India are the best in its class. Nobody in the world gives you 50% of pari passu.
Correct.
So I'll again be, a devil's advocate, and a lot of people would say that, oh, why is the government doing like this? The state governments are putting in more, so it's 75%. The guy who's coming in, or, the entity which is coming in is only putting in 25% and all of that. Does it work that way? Well, these are you're looking at investments which are, not only colossal, but they have an extreme chance of failure.
Absolutely.
They have extreme chances of not succeeding. So all over the world, they have been funded by the government. So why single out India? That's one.
Mm.
Now, post the India Semiconductor Mission, which was established in the, and the policy which got in the December of 2021 and tweaked later in October of 2022, I think it's one of the best of its kind.
Mm.
Looks at the production linked incentive for fabrication facilities, the packaging OSATs, and the ATMP facilities, as well as the display and various other technologies.
Mm.
It looks at the design linked incentive. India is a design powerhouse. 20% of the designers of the world are here.
Mm.
So it looks at the design linked incentive, which basically strategizes and reignites startups in the hardware domain to do what they have to do in times to come. And then, of course, you have the chips to startup, which is already on, which looks at the academic institutions, and then you have the Vishweshwaraya scheme, which looks at PhDs, and then you look at changes in the syllabi which have taken place for workforce development. And if you look at it very, very, in a very focused manner, imagine in the last around 2.5 to 3 years, the government of India has approved 5 facilities, 1 fabrication and 4 OSATs. 1 fabrication in Dholera, 3 in Sanand, and 1 in Jagi Road in Assam. I think, and more are in the pipeline as the ISM 2.0 takes place, and the $10 billion tranche which has already been allocated to us gets over. So all in all, I think it's a fabulous way we have started, and I'm sure it's just
thank you for
great growth.
Absolutely, and thank you for giving us this amazing perspective. And you're so right. Until there is stability, you can't develop something in these very high technology and very, very capital intensive businesses. Thank you. Can you also talk to me, Anurag, about the significance of the chip wars and what are its implications for India?
See, it is the building block of everything.
Correct.
Today, from, as I always say, from safety razors to satellites, everything is going to be running on the chip.
Absolutely.
Now, this possibly a problem or a statement of a problem was much realized by the world post the pandemic. Now when you're looking at the chips, you're looking at a troika. You're looking at a troika of materials, you're looking at a troika of equipment, and you're looking at a troika of services. So basically, these 3 things, if I break it down very simplistically and not go into too much of technicalities, function on the basic chip ecosystem. Equipment which is required to make the chip, whether it is the machines, whether it is the lithography, whether it is whichever way it is. Then you're looking at materials, which you're looking at chemicals, gases, various other things. And then, of course, you're looking at the services, which is packaging, which you're looking at logistics, and various other issues which form part of it. Now, post the pandemic and the current geopolitical, upheaval all over the world, you're aware what's happening in West Asia, what's happened in Ukraine. It's more than 2 years now. Like Ukraine produces the biggest neon in the world. Is the biggest producer of neon in the world, semiconductor grade neon. If you go back into the dynamics, the price of neon has increased 9 times ever since February 24th February 22. That is when the Ukraine conflict started. So these supply chains all over the world, which look at 150 odd chemicals, gases, various logistics things, distribution houses, warehousing, it's a very complex thing. All these have got strained. Post they got strained, and you have a massive automobile market, you have a massive wearables market, you have an industrial equipment market, you have a space and aero, defense market. You felt those tremors that, look, this is a little problematic. And that is why the primacy of the chip, as I always say, chips are the new oil. So that is very, very important. If we have to look at it in the bigger perspective. Now, let's segment this one by one. When you look at the equipment, most of the equipment is made in the United States. The lithographic machines are actually, centered around the Netherlands. We're all aware. Some of them are made in Asia. the equipment. Then when you're looking at fabrication facilities, most of them are in Asia, whether it is Taiwan or whether it is Japan or whether it is,
China.
Malaysia or China, whichever way it is. When you're looking at packaging, bulk of it happens in China. When you're looking at critical materials and minerals, if you remember, Deng Xiaoping in 1987, he said, and I quote, "If Middle East has oil, we have rare earths."
Yeah.
See, it was a very profound statement. Possibly people didn't take it well that time. They didn't understand the ethos of it at that juncture, right? And then you're looking at, those chemicals and gases which have to be taken through the sea route. For that, you require a port. Obviously, they can't take an air route because they're pyrotoxic, they are unstable. Imagine carrying them, their cartage, their handling, the port dynamics, their movement, their storage, their shelf life. It's a complex maze.
Right.
And then each chip, which is manufactured in any fabrication facility around the world, it's got nearly 300 to 400 processes. That takes 3 months' time.
Correct.
So now, with all this as a backdrop, the primacy of chip in India is very, very critical. And that is why the chip wars are taking place all over the world.
What a great response. What a great response. Thank you. My next question to you, Anurag, is that, how important is Make in India? Because you gave me the example of 2 rupees or $2 versus $25. What has started to change other than, of course, the 50 plus 25% cost? And I completely agree it must be done. But I'd love to get your perspective on what is the role or impact of Make in India and why is it so important for Indian manufacturers?
You see, I will, as an ex-uniformed gentleman, so my basic locus standi has always been that you need to fight Indian wars with Indian solutions.
Absolutely right.
It's as simple as that. It's as simplistic that it can get. Now, while you may have great friends all over the world who will be trusted, not trusted, will bounce from one side to the other, etc., because the world is not about friendship; it's all about interests at the end of the day. So to keep that as the focal point, your national interest has to be supreme.
Absolutely.
It has to be. There is no other option. While it may take a little time, everything takes time. While it may take a little time, but for me, Make in India is not only a slogan, it is a requirement, it is a necessity, it is imperative for a country of a size of India, with a diaspora all over the world, with a demographic dividend. I mean, you are the youngest population in the planet today. You're 28 years, 5 months as the median age. Because of this, there are 4 aspects that you need to look at. A, protecting your own interests. B, developing your own infrastructure and facilities. C, providing jobs. Job creation is a very, very important aspect of burgeoning and a very, upside economy. And 4, and most important, be proud of what you do.
Correct.
That is very important. So having these 4 vectors as focus, it is, I think, critical that Make in India has happened. And while a lot of people may be saying that, it is not gathering that much of steam and there will be a lot of naysayers. No, it's taking a lot of root and a lot of work is happening.
Absolutely. And what, in your view, is the role of academia in strengthening our semiconductor ecosystem?
Very good question. The academia in India is critical for workforce development, for talent development, for faculty development, because somebody has to teach them also. Now you will see, we've seen COVID. We've seen what happened in COVID and the vaccine wars, if I may put it like that. Now there are certain things which may happen at a particular time that you would basically find that a lot of things may go awry because of the talent management.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, whatever comes in a small proportion can be weaponized.
Hmm.
If I may use it, I mean, it's a very bad word,
Yeah.
weaponized.
Yeah.
So there will be talent deficit insofar as the
Hmm.
semiconductor and critical electronic space is concerned.
Hmm.
So who develops the talent?
Hmm.
Who develops the faculty for it?
Correct.
At the same time, who changes the syllabi, tweak it as per the new? You look at the national education policy, path
Hmm.
breaking.
Yeah.
You look at the national logistics policy, path breaking.
Correct.
You look at the Skill India,
Hmm.
outstanding.
Hmm.
But how do these vectors have to finally combine is where
Hmm.
academia fills in those gaps.
Hmm.
The only thing is that with, as we speak, and we've all grown up on some superheroes like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility, so
Hmm.
said Uncle Ben.
Hmm.
So the academia has to be kept accountable. That
Hmm.
is one.
Yeah.
And the second part is the academia has to get over this drift of, tier two, tier three, all of that.
Hmm.
Because talent lies everywhere. Right?
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
Hmm.
ISRO is a fine example. You can see the kind of people who are in ISRO, they are making things happen for the world.
Correct.
So anybody who says that there is a brand of academic institutions and there's a brand of faculty which teaches in those academic institutions may not be correct.
Very well said.
Talent is all over the place. You
Very
have to just harness it.
Very
the
well
right
said.
way.
Well said. You also spoke a few minutes back about, it's going to take a little time. And therefore, my next question is, how does India's semiconductor strategy align with the global semiconductor supply chain?
This is a question which is a very, very important question which you've asked.
Hmm.
We need to plug in those global supply chains.
Right.
That is the critical part.
Hmm.
It's in play. A lot of work is in play, whether
Right.
it is in the terms of materials,
Hmm.
whether it is in terms of logistics, whether it is in terms of chemicals. I mean, you have the sixth largest chemical industry in the world,
Hmm.
actually, if you look at it.
Hmm.
Your own Indian chemical industry is, I think, it contributes 8% to your national GDP.
Correct.
So it's huge.
Hmm.
But how do they get into the semiconductor grade
Hmm.
chemicals, their qualifications, their quantifications as per the global standards,
Hmm.
their movement into the global markets, your warehousing facilities,
Hmm.
various other things. I mean, it's a very complex topic.
Hmm.
But your movement into the global supply chain is critical.
Yeah.
It's absolutely critical. So while a lot is being done on that, but it's not going to be a work which will be done in a day. It will
Hmm.
take a while.
Hmm.
But well begun is half done. So
Yeah.
I think you're on your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And, I've also been reading that, and while I fully agree that talent can come from tier two, tier three, and from all over the country, how does India address the talent shortage in the semiconductor and ESDM fields?
India is going to be the talent factory and the talent, destination of the world in the next 10 years.
Hmm.
You have nearly 1.5 million engineers graduating out of India
Hmm.
every year
Hmm.
in terms of metrics.
Yeah.
Look at the STEM education. Look at the percentage of women in STEM. I think it's one of the highest in the world.
Right.
In spite of people may not knowing it, it's
Hmm.
quite a lot.
Correct.
Your labor force participation rate is increasing by
Hmm.
the day,
Yeah.
insofar as men and women is concerned. And at the same time, what we need to do now is energize. There are 4 tiers of this pyramid, as per
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
The lowest tier is the operators and the technicians level.
Hmm. Hmm.
The first tier would be the undergrad level. The third tier would be the grad level, and the last tier would be postdoctoral.
Hmm.
In my view, we should not concentrate too much on postdoctoral.
Hmm.
That base of that pyramid that
Hmm.
we have, we have the ITIs, we have various other, apprenticeship programs, etc.,
Hmm.
etc. That is where we need to put in a lot of effort, increase the base of that pyramid, because a lot of people will ask for this talent much more than your, postdoctoral and postgraduate fellows.
Hmm.
A, because of numbers, and B, you require technicians, operators, and all those various other crafts that you have at the bottom edge of the pyramid all over the world. Everyone requires them. in numbers.
Mm.
And while a lot of people may keep speaking about fabrication facilities, etc., fabrication facilities are not manpower.
Right.
The OSATs and ATMPs are manpower intensive. The components are manpower intensive. Various other facilities are, but fabrication is totally automated somewhere down the line. So it's not, you can't look at manpower there.
Correct.
But in terms of, addressing these 4 tiers at various levels, it's already a work in progress by the government. It's already in progress. So I'm happy to report there's a lot of work happening in this space.
Absolutely.
And you will be the talent powerhouse for the world.
Absolutely. Very well said. And my last question for you, Anurag, as a policy and strategy specialist, where do you see our own semiconductor business supported by all the government policies in the next few years?
You should be among the first 5 or 6 in this decade, by the end of this decade.
Okay.
Because of 3 reasons. A, you're a large market.
Yeah.
Market dynamics dictate everything.
2,
you have the talent pool. And 3, the amount of push which the government of India is giving is, and the industry also now putting in a lot of effort, putting the shoulders to the grind, will do a lot of good to the system. So I personally feel these 3 things will take the country where it has to by around 2030.
Very interesting. And on that note, Anurag, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me about this very critical aspect of our country, which is semiconductors and ESDM. And we saw what happened when COVID came in and how a supply shortage of chips impacted virtually everything that we were wanting to acquire in our country. Thank you for talking to me about the industry. Thank you for talking to me about the chip wars. I think your perspective is very, very valuable. I completely agree with what you said about Make in India and how a country of our size has to make everything in India. Thank you also for speaking to me about supply chains, talent shortages, and your perspectives in the next few years.
Thank you very much. My only closing remarks would be that, there's an African proverb which I always quote every time. It says, till a lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter.
Correct. Correct.
The lion has started writing.
Absolutely right. Very well said. Thank you again. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.